Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here in DC and with opportunity. This is my first time ever with opportunity in the US. And I have enjoyed every moment of it in Chicago, starting at Chicago. Then I was in San Diego, and now I'm here in Washington. I've surrendered myself to Vicky and team to take me wherever they want to take me. One of the questions that I have been asked across the 3 states that I've been in the US is, why are you partnering with opportunity? You are not a microfinance institute. Why are you partnering? What are you doing with opportunity? Healing Fields Foundation is a healthcare organization. We have been set up for the last 15 years. We started our journey in micro health insurance, and we realized very fast that micro health insurance, for it to work, we need to have hospitals and doctors. And many of the rural and tribal areas in India still do not have hospitals and doctors or any trained medical professionals. And about 80% of the people coming into the hospitals were coming with preventable illnesses, which could be prevented if they had enough knowledge, or if they had access to water, sanitation, toilets, or knowledge, sanitary napkins, as well as finance. And coming back to why MFIs, why microfinance institutions? Microfinance institutions have been thriving across the world with opportunity for the last 40 years and almost for about 20 years, 15 to 17 years in Southeast Asia. You have the Grameen model with Mohammed Yunus, and you have one of the largest microfinance institutions in India. One of Opportunity's partners, Cashpor, has 800,000 clients just in 2 states in India. That is the magnitude of microfinance activity in India itself. So microfinance becomes our natural partners for 2 reasons. One is they have already built these trust groups over years of working with them. So it gives us a great platform to be able to distribute the products and services that I talked about. And the next thing is, again, India being a doubting country, argumentative country that we are, and also questioning country that we are. People started questioning, are all the loans that is being taken, is it being used for only livelihood development? So we did a short study to understand. About 48% of the loans many of the first-time loanees were taking was for consumption loans. And about 52% of those loans were going towards a health emergency. Either it could be for a hospitalization, or it could be for a funeral, or it could be for food, or it could be for paying the school fees. And that if they took the loan for a consumption, then naturally they are not able to make more money because it is not productive. And quickly we realized, thanks to Opportunity again with their work with Diya Vikas in India, they realized that the people's socio-economic movement was not as fast as they expected, because again, there is another huge World Bank report which says 20% of the population goes below poverty line with just 1 incident of hospitalization. And so that is why microfinance institutions become our natural partners. Here I want to I'm not going to describe my program, I'm just going to talk to you about the journey of one of Cashpor's clients. Her name is Baby Devi. She is my inspiration, and she is my hero. Baby Devi lives in one of the most backward states in India, where our health statistics are much, much, much below the sub-Saharan Africa. At one end of the spectrum, we dominate the World Billionaires Club, and at another spectrum, we have the poorest of the poor. Today's New York article by Nicholas Kristof says about more than 37% of the children below 5 years in one state, Uttar Pradesh, are malnourished. Seeing that article today morning when I was reading it, it just broke my heart. And that is mainly because the pregnant mother is malnourished and the pregnant mother is anemic. So the child does not even have a chance. Forget about being born, but within the uterus itself, the child does not have a chance. And we are a country where many of the children below 5 do not see the year 5 because there is no access to primary care, there is no access to immunization, there is no access to proper nutrition or food. So baby Devi was married when she was about 15 years old into what we call a joint family. A joint family is where the parents of the husband, the brothers of the husband, and the unmarried sisters of the husband, all of them live together under the same roof using the same kitchen. And the dominant force here is the mother-in-law. And so baby Devi was married when she was 15, and the reason for getting married so early was there was no toilet in the house. And when there is no toilet in the house, it affects the women and the girls the most, because the women and the girls will have to go to the bushes early in the morning before sunrise or after sunset. And that means they will not drink much of water or eat food for fear of having to defecate or urinate. And also, when the family members would go out to work, to leave an adolescent girl alone at home is not very safe. What if she elopes with somebody who is lower caste? Or what if a higher caste boy falls in love with their daughter and they would get mobbed by the lynch mob? So the best thing to do is to get her married and make her somebody else's responsibility. Girls in India are a parent's responsibility, and they are asset. They are somebody's property. So from the father's hands home, the girl moves to the husband's home to become the property of the husband and her family. She has to work, and she does the maximum work in the house. And by the time she was about 21, 22, she had already produced about 5 children. 3 of them were girls, 2 of them were boys. And she had a very hard life. And baby Devi, when the girls were growing up, had decided that she was going to keep the kids in school. So one, she had to miss school, drop out of school because there was no toilet, either in the home or in the school. And the next thing is there is no water. We don't use toilet paper, we need to use water. So there is no water either in the house or in the school. And the third reason is every month she did not have sanitary napkins. It's very common in India. About more than 80% of the women do not use sanitary napkins, they use rags. And many of the poorer homes, the rags are shared by the women in the house. And so that you can imagine what the kind of illnesses that they would get. So good enough reason for her to drop out. But the girls were growing, baby Devi decided that she was going to do everything possible to make sure that her girls stayed in school. She got to know about Kashpur, who is Diya Vikas's partner MFI in India, and joined the Kashpur Microfinance group in her village. And the first loan that baby Devi took was to repay a loan that she had borrowed with very high interest to pay for her father-in-law's illness. And she repaid that over time. She was in agricultural labor. Her husband was also an agriculture daily wage earner. They did not have any property other than the house, where it had to be shared between the in-laws, one brother-in-law and family, and her husband and family. And the second loan that baby Devi took was to buy a cycle rickshaw for her husband. Baby Devi was taunted because she did not bring in a dowry. She was not able to get more money to support her in-laws, husband and children and in-laws. So the second loan baby Devi took was to buy a rickshaw. And immediately what happened is her status within the family changed. She supported her father-in-law, paid up the loan, And the second thing is she bought her husband a cycle rickshaw so that there could be a steady income. But there's not enough food. You have seven mouths to feed in baby Devi's family, mother-in-law, father-in-law, and about 4 mouths to feed in the brother-in-law's family. So it was a huge family. And baby Devi's husband would earn money. 50% of it would come towards the house to pay for some of the food expenses. 50% went towards liquor. And liquor, mainly because I don't know how many of you have seen the cycle rickshaw. Cycle rickshaw is to take people, it's a passenger cycle. And by the end of the day, his body used to hurt because he doesn't have enough food to eat. He's hungry most of the time, so he's chewing tobacco to kill his hunger. And to get away from the pain, he used to drink liquor. And it became an addiction, and he used to come home and beat her up. Baby Devi again paid up this loan, and she took a third loan, and she bought a small little piece of land just adjacent to her home and started planting vegetables so that that food can go towards the food of the children. A woman, when you support a woman, the first thing it goes to, which I agree totally with David, was, how do I bring up my kids out of poverty? That's her only goal. How do I keep my kids in school? How do I give them food? How do I give them clothes? And in India, how do I keep my girls safe? And at that point in time, we partnered with Cashpore and offered the 1-year health education training program, where we were collecting applicants to undertake the 1-year training. When we started about 4 years ago with Diya Vikas's groups, we were not too sure. It was only a training program which addressed basic healthcare needs: sanitation, hygiene, water, nutrition, common illnesses, pregnancy, childbirth, menstrual hygiene, addictions. And then we also started forming health saving groups where 15 women got together and saved 50 rupees a month, and they could take small loans and go and buy discounted healthcare in hospitals and buy discounted medicines. At that point in time, we were not thinking of any livelihood. And we also had first aid in this, and with just first aid, people were saving lives. During this program, I still remember 4 years ago, the women had to come and stay with us in a hotel. And in India, women of good moral character and family will not step out of their homes other than with a family member who is a male or an older lady within the family. And here we are asking them to leave the village and come to a city and stay with us in a hotel. And that happens only with women who are immoral. So every time she came in for the program every month, she would be taunted by her brother-in-law, saying that she's going to go and do something immoral. So for 2 months, her husband followed her, came and made sure that everything was all right, there was nothing illegal going on, and all the women were safe. And by the 4th month, we offer first aid. And once when baby Devi was in her kitchen and there was a kid crying, so she ran outside and the kid said a scorpion had bit her. I mean, the villages in rural India are full of scorpions and snakes, and had bit him, and he was crying in pain. Immediately she went in and used her first aid that she had learnt, which is an international program offered by Red Cross across the world. It's called the St. John's Ambulance First Aid Program. And she saved his life and immediately rushed him to hospital and gave him first aid, rushed him to hospital. And a couple of incidences like that, then the brother-in-law started changing his attitude towards baby Devi and started becoming proud of her, and every time would call her if there was a health problem. And in the meanwhile, we started a small little sanitary napkin production unit where the women produced the sanitary napkins and sold it to the community. And Baby Devi did two things. One is she would come alternate days, produce the sanitary napkins, took it to her village, spoke to the adolescent girls, spoke to the mothers, and sold the sanitary napkin for a commission. And other than that, when we started teaching her the importance of toilet, we always immediately think the most important thing in a toilet is you need the toilet because of the health issues. When we started talking to these women, their need was not as much as a health issue. The need was more for dignity and privacy. The need for healing fields and Kashpur was health, but for them it was dignity and privacy. Many of the toilets that the government had built were not being used. Were not being used because one, it was away from the home, and that was the only shelter that was available. Cemented floor, tin roof, with a door for storing grains for seeds or storing hay for the buffaloes. So that was the only dry place that was available. Then when we started talking to Baby Devi and the others to find out what is happening, why are they not using? The reason was there was no dry space. So every year they would have a monsoon and they would have a flood. So the next year before the monsoon started, we started talking to the community through the community health facilitators saying, now the monsoon is coming in, it is going to be flooded, you can take it, guarantee that it's going to get flooded. So what are you going to be doing about it? Shall we create dry spaces for the buffaloes and the feed? And so together they started creating the dry spaces so that the toilets can be used, because again, the toilet was more of dignity and privacy rather than a health issue. As we went along, we realized that these women are also poor. They need to work during the day to put food on the table. So we started introducing income generating activities. We are still doing a couple of pilots, and with those pilots we are seeing that there has been a very good response to this. Women are earning about almost $100 a month through various income generation activities like conducting health camps, building toilets, and offering sanitary napkins, and referring patients to the hospitals. So these are some of the activities. As we speak, we are already doing a demand study from which we will quickly understand what are the kind of products and services that we can offer. And till date, we have trained about 2,500 women, Microfinance, the Avikasa's clients, to work in about 2,500 villages. By 2017, we will be touching 4,000, and these 4,000 women would reach about 5 million population in 2 states. We are going into the poorest of the poor states in the country. And as of last week, we have just signed up with Stanford Emergency Medicine to add a skill set to these women so that they can become para workers within the village, become the first healthcare responders. And this is something that we are looking to fund, because the goal is to reach 4,000, but by 2020, we are hoping to reach 20,000 if we have the funding in place by 2020. We now, Opportunity International Australia has invited to work in Indonesia, because Indonesia is also equally poor. So with our experience in India, we plan to go into Indonesia and start our work there. And we hope to continue partnering with Opportunity and meeting the goals that we have set for all of us. Thank you.